The Velith Dawn was a small ship, built for research and exploration, not for combat or rescue. Its crew of 12 Cathari had spent the last 6 months studying asteroid formations in an uncharted sector of space. Far from the busy trade routes and the wars that plagued the galaxy, they were scholars, scientists, and peaceful beings who wanted nothing more than to learn about the universe around them, Captain. Cirith stood on the bridge and watched the stars drift past the viewport. He was old by Cathari standards, his pale blue skin marked with the dark lines that came with age. He had spent his entire life avoiding trouble, and he intended to keep it that way. The galaxy was a dangerous place for species like his. The Cathari had no great fleets, no powerful weapons, no allies who would come to their defense. They survived by staying out of sight and out of mind. The distress beacon changed everything. It was faint, barely a whisper against the background noise of space. Tevin, the ship's medical officer, was the first to notice it. He brought it to Cirith's attention with the quiet hesitation that marked all difficult conversations among their kind. "It could be a trap," Tevin said. "Pirates have been known to use false signals." Cirith considered this. He knew the risks, but he also knew that somewhere out there, someone might be dying. Someone might need help that only they could provide. "Set a course," he said, "but keep the engines ready for a quick escape." The Velith Dawn found the source of the beacon 3 hours later. It was a debris field, the scattered remains of what had once been a human freighter. Twisted metal and frozen cargo drifted in the void, spinning slowly in the endless dark. Among the wreckage, barely visible against the stars, was a single escape pod. Tevin scanned it and found a life sign. Weak, fading, but present. "Human," he reported. "Female. She is dying." Cirith felt a chill run through him. Humans were not well regarded in this part of the galaxy. They were newcomers, aggressive and unpredictable, known for their violence and their stubborn refusal to accept their place in the cosmic order. Most species avoided them. Some actively hunted them. "Bring her aboard," Cirith said. His crew looked at him with surprise and fear. No one questioned the order, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. He shared it, but he could not leave someone to die in the cold of space, no matter what species they were. The escape pod was damaged beyond repair. Its hull was cracked, its systems failing. Inside, strapped to a seat that had been designed for someone much larger, was a young human woman. Her skin was pale, her lips blue, her breathing so shallow that it was almost impossible to detect. Radiation burns covered her arms and face. She had been exposed to the vacuum, even if only briefly. By all rights, she should have been dead already. Tevin worked for 3 weeks to save her life. He adapted Cathari medicine for human biology, a process of trial and error that nearly killed her twice. He studied her language from the damaged computer in her escape pod, learning enough to understand her fevered whispers. He sat by her side during the long nights when her body fought against itself, refusing to give up even when logic said there was no hope. Her name was Clara Dawson. She had been a cargo handler on the Morning Star, a freighter carrying supplies to the outer colonies. The ship had been attacked by the Vorn Syndicate, a pirate collective that controlled vast stretches of lawless space. The crew had fought back, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. 47 people had died in the attack. Clara was the only survivor when she finally woke. She found herself in a room that looked nothing like anything she had ever seen. The walls curved in strange ways. The lights were too dim, tinged with colors that hurt her eyes. And the beings standing around her bed were not human, she screamed. Tevin spoke to her in halting, broken words that he had learned from her ship's computer. "Safe," he said. "You are safe. We are friends." It took time for Clara to believe him. She had grown up hearing stories about aliens, and most of those stories did not end well for humans. But day after day, the Cathari proved themselves through their actions. They fed her, healed her, gave her clothes and a room of her own. They asked nothing in return except her company and her conversation. Cirith visited her often. He was curious about humans, though he would never admit it. He asked her questions about her world, her people, her customs. Clara answered as best she could, though she did not consider herself an expert on anything. She was just a cargo handler, nobody special, a girl from a small town on a colony world that most people had never heard of. "Why did you save me?" she asked him one evening. Syrah thought about the question for a long time. "Because you needed saving," he finally said. "Is there another reason required?" Clara did not have an answer. The Velith Dawn set course for the nearest human outpost. A journey of several weeks through dangerous territory. Sirith plotted a careful route, avoiding the sectors controlled by the Vorn and their allies. He thought they might make it without incident. He was wrong. The Vorn patrol ship appeared on their sensors without warning, emerging from behind a gas giant where it had been hiding. It was 5 times the size of the Velith Dawn, bristling with weapons that could tear the research vessel apart in seconds. A voice crackled over the communication system. "Cathari vessel, this is the Vorn Syndicate. Surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Sirith looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, the same fear he felt in his own heart. They had no weapons. They had no shields strong enough to withstand even a single hit. They were scholars, not warriors. "We have no cargo of value," he transmitted back. "We are a research vessel. Please let us pass." The Vorn commander laughed. "Your data cores are valuable enough, and we will take your passengers as well. All of them." Clara stood at the back of the bridge, watching the exchange. She understood what was happening. These were the same pirates who had killed her crew, who had destroyed everything she had known. And now they were going to take these gentle beings, who had shown her nothing but kindness. She could not let that happen. "Tell them I will go with them," she said quietly. Sirith turned to look at her. "What?" "Tell them I will surrender. I will go willingly. Just ask them to let you go." Tevin stepped forward. "Clara, no. They will kill you. Or worse." Clara shook her head. "Maybe, but you saved my life. I owe you this." The Vorn boarding party arrived within the hour. They were large reptilian creatures with scarred hides and cruel eyes. Their leader, a massive brute named Koroks, examined the Cathari crew with obvious contempt. They were weak, pathetic, not even worth enslaving. Then he saw Clara. "A human," he said, his voice thick with amusement. "What is a human doing on a Cathari ship?" Clara stepped forward before anyone could stop her. "I am your prisoner," she said. "Take me and let the others go." That was the deal. Korak studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the corridor. "Very well, human. You have courage. I respect that. It will make breaking you more entertaining." He gestured to his men, and they dragged Clara away in chains. The Cathari were released in a damaged shuttle. It's just enough power to reach the nearest station. Sirith watched the Vorn ship disappear into hyperspace, carrying Clara to whatever fate awaited her. He had never felt so helpless in his life. He had also never felt so determined. The human had saved them. Now he would find a way to save her. He set course for Earth. The journey to Earth took 3 months. The Velith Dawn was not built for long voyages, and its engines had been damaged during the encounter with the Vorn. Sirith pushed the ship as hard as he dared, stopping only when absolutely necessary for repairs and supplies. His crew did not complain. They understood what was at stake. Tem spent the journey reviewing every piece of data they had collected about the Vorn Syndicate. He studied their patrol patterns, their communication frequencies, their known bases of operation. It was not much, but it was something. Every piece of information might help the humans find Clara. When the Velith Dawn finally entered the Sol system, it was immediately surrounded by human warships. They appeared from nowhere, their weapons charged, and their scanners probing every inch of the Cathari vessel. Sirith had expected this. Humans were known for their paranoia, their distrust of outsiders. He did not blame them. In a galaxy that had shown them little kindness, caution was a reasonable response. "Unidentified vessel. This is the United Earth Navy patrol ship Guardian," a voice announced over the communication channel. "State your identity and purpose, or you will be destroyed." Sirith transmitted his response carefully, using the human language that Tevin had taught him during the journey. I am Captain Cirith, of the Cathari research vessel, Velith Dawn. I come in peace. I have information about a human citizen being held captive by the Vorn Syndicate. I request permission to speak with your authorities. There is a long pause. Then the voice returned, softer this time, curious. Hold your position. An escort will arrive to guide you to Luna Station. Luna Station was the largest human military installation in the Sol system. It orbited Earth's moon, a massive structure of metal and glass that housed thousands of soldiers, diplomats, and government officials. Cirith had never seen anything like it. The Cathari did not build things on such a grand scale. They preferred small communities, quiet lives, careful steps through a dangerous universe. He was brought before a council of human leaders in a room with high ceilings and harsh lights. Military officers in crisp uniforms sat beside diplomats in formal clothing. At the center of the table sat a woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Her name was Admiral Catherine Cole, and she was one of the most powerful figures in the United Earth Navy. Tell us your story, she said. Cirith told them everything. He described finding Clara's escape pod, treating her injuries, learning her language, and her history. He told them about the Vorn attack, about Clara's sacrifice, about the way she had offered herself to save beings she had known for only a few weeks. He showed them recordings from the Velith Dawn's damaged systems, images and sounds that had survived the encounter. The humans watched in silence. Cirith could not read their expressions. Human faces were strange to him, their emotions hidden behind muscles that moved in ways he did not understand. When he finished, Admiral Cole leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. This woman, Clara Dawson. You say she surrendered herself to protect your crew. Yes, you came all this way to tell us. To ask us to help. I could not do nothing, Cirith said. She saved our lives. I owe her a debt that I can never repay. But perhaps your people can do what we cannot. Admiral Cole exchanged glances with the other council members. Cirith saw doubt in their eyes, calculation, the careful weighing of risks and rewards that all leaders must perform. He understood. The Vorn Syndicate was powerful, dangerous, and far beyond human territory. A rescue mission would be costly, perhaps impossible. A young officer spoke up from the end of the table. His name was Daniel Price, a lieutenant commander with dark hair and sharp eyes. He had been watching Cirith with unusual intensity throughout the meeting. With respect, Admiral, he said, Clara Dawson is not the only human being held by the Vorn. Admiral Cole frowned. Explain. Intelligence reports suggest that the Syndicate has been taking human prisoners for years. Crews from destroyed freighters, colonists from raided settlements, travelers who strayed too close to their territory. We do not know the exact numbers, but estimates range from dozens to hundreds. They are being used as slaves, entertainment, or worse. The room fell silent. Cirith felt something shift in the atmosphere, a change in the way the humans held themselves. He did not understand what it meant. What are you suggesting, Commander? Admiral Cole asked. Daniel stood up, his hands flat on the table. I am suggesting that if we are going to risk war with the Vorn Syndicate, we should do it properly. Not a rescue mission for one person, but a liberation campaign for all of them. Every human being held in Vorn space. We bring them all home. Admiral Cole shook her head. The resources required for such an operation would be enormous. The political consequences could be catastrophic. We cannot afford a war with the Syndicate. Can we afford not to? Daniel asked. Every year they take more of our people. Every year we do nothing. At what point do we say enough? The debate continued for hours. Cirith watched and listened, trying to understand the strange dynamics at play. The humans were divided, uncertain, pulled in different directions by fear and duty and something else that he could not name. In the end, the council reached no decision. They would study the matter, consult with experts, consider their options. Cirith was given quarters on the station and told to wait. But the recording of Clara's sacrifice did not wait. Someone on the council leaked it to the public networks. Within hours, it had spread across Earth and every human colony. Billions of people watched a young woman offer her life for aliens she barely knew. They heard her voice, saw her face, felt her courage. The response was unlike anything Sirith had ever witnessed. Protests erupted in cities across Earth, demanding action. Veterans volunteered to return to service. Shipyards that had been idle for years began working around the clock. Political leaders who had counseled caution found themselves facing crowds of angry citizens who refused to accept inaction. Clara Dawson became a symbol. Her image appeared on walls and screens and banners. Her words were repeated in homes and schools and government halls. She had given everything for strangers. Now her people were ready to give everything for her. 2 weeks after Sirith's arrival, Admiral Cole called another meeting of the Council. This time, there was no debate. The decision had already been made by the billions of voices crying out for justice. "We are authorizing Operation Homecoming," she announced. "Its mission is to locate and rescue every human being held captive in Vorin space. We will not rest until they are all home." The room erupted in applause. Daniel Price was promoted to captain and given command of the strike carrier UN Resolute. Admiral Cole herself would lead the fleet. Sirith was invited to join them as a liaison and advisor. He accepted without hesitation. Before the meeting ended, Admiral Cole approached him. Her face was unreadable, but her voice was soft. "Came a long way to tell us about one woman," she said. "I did. Why?" "Your people are known for staying out of conflicts. This is not your fight." Sirith considered the question. He thought about Clara, about the way she had smiled at Tevin during her recovery, about the gratitude in her eyes when she realized she was safe. He thought about the moment she had stepped forward to face the Vorn, knowing what it would cost her. "She made it my fight," he said. "When she chose to save us, she made it personal. I could not walk away from that. I do not think your people can either." Admiral Cole nodded slowly. "No," she said. "We cannot." The fleet began assembling the next day. Ships arrived from every corner of human space, crewed by men and women who had dropped everything to answer the call. They came because they believed in something larger than themselves. They came because one of their own needed them. Sirith watched from the observation deck of Luna Station as the Armada took shape. It was the largest military force humanity had ever deployed beyond its own borders. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, all of them ready to cross the galaxy for people they had never met. He still did not fully understand humans, but he was beginning to appreciate them. Clara had saved one ship. Now an entire civilization was coming to save her. The human fleet gathered in the outer reaches of the Sol system. Far from the busy shipping lanes and the prying eyes of foreign observers, Captain Daniel Price stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched as ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace to join the formation. Carriers, destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels of every size and configuration. It was a sight that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Admiral Cole had given him a simple briefing before departure. "Find our people," she said. "Bring them home, whatever it takes." The Vorn Syndicate controlled a vast region of space spanning dozens of star systems. Their headquarters was a station called the Black Citadel, hidden deep within a nebula that scrambled sensor systems and made navigation nearly impossible. No outside force had ever successfully attacked it. Most had never even found it. But Daniel had spent weeks studying every piece of intelligence the Navy had gathered about the Vorn. He knew their patrol routes, their supply lines, their weaknesses. More importantly, he had Sirith, who had spent his life studying alien cultures and technologies. Together, they had developed a plan. The fleet would not attack the Black Citadel directly. That would be suicide. Instead, they would work their way through Vorn territory, hitting smaller targets one by one. Each successful raid would provide more intelligence, more resources, and more freed prisoners. By the time they reached the Citadel, they would know everything they needed to know. The fleet jumped to hyperspace on a cold Tuesday morning by Earth time. 80,000 men and women, leaving everything they knew behind, heading into enemy territory for people they had never met. Daniel felt the weight of their lives pressing down on him. He had asked for this command. Now he had to earn it. Their first target was a mining outpost in the Kethri system. Intelligence suggested that a small number of human prisoners were being used as forced labor in the asteroid mines. digging ore that would be sold to fund the syndicate's operations. The garrison was light, the defenses weak. It was the perfect place to begin. The attack came without warning. Human fighters screamed out of hyperspace, their weapons already firing. The Vorn patrol ships barely had time to raise shields before they were torn apart by missile salvos. Marines in armored suits launched from assault carriers, their dropships racing toward the mining platform while the space battle raged around them. Daniel watched the operation from the Resolute's command center, tracking every unit, every engagement, every life at risk. The Vorn fought back with desperate fury, but they were outmatched and outnumbered. Within 3 hours, the platform was under human control. They found 11 prisoners in the mines. Men and women who had been taken years ago, some of them captured as children. Their bodies were scarred by hard labor and harsh treatment. Their eyes were empty, hopeless, unable to believe what they were seeing. A young Marine named Lisa Grant was the first to reach them. She removed her helmet so they could see her face, so they could see that she was human. "It is okay," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "We are here. We are taking you home." One of the prisoners, an old man with white hair and trembling hands, he fell to his knees and wept. The news of the successful rescue spread through the fleet within hours. Morale soared. The mission was real. It was working. They were bringing their people home. Over the following weeks, the human fleet struck target after target. Supply depots, communication relays, patrol stations, and prison facilities fell one after another. Each time, they searched for captives. Each time, they found them. The Vorn commanders could not understand what was happening. They had faced enemies before, but never like this. These humans were relentless, aggressive, willing to absorb casualties that would have broken any other species. They attacked without mercy, but they also showed strange restraint. They did not destroy civilian infrastructure. They did not take prisoners of their own. They seemed interested in nothing except freeing their captured people. Corax, the pirate lord who had taken Clara Dawson, received reports of the human offensive with growing unease. He had laughed when he first heard about it. A rescue mission for a few worthless slaves? The humans were fools. They would learn the price of their arrogance, but the reports kept coming. One outpost fallen. Then another. Then 5 more. The humans were not stopping. They were not slowing down. They were cutting a path through Vorn territory like a blade through flesh. Corax ordered Clara moved to a more secure location. Then another. Then another. She was too valuable now, not for her labor or her entertainment value, but as a symbol. If the humans were really coming for her, he wanted to be ready. Clara heard the rumors during her captivity. The other prisoners whispered about human warships, about battles won and stations destroyed. She did not believe them at first. Why would anyone come for her? She was nobody. A cargo handler from a colony world that most people had never heard of. But the rumors kept coming, and slowly, carefully, she allowed herself to hope. Cirith accompanied the fleet as an advisor and observer. He spent most of his time on the Resolute's observation deck, watching the stars and thinking about what he had witnessed. He had studied alien cultures his entire life, trying to understand what made each species unique. He had theories about human behavior, hypotheses based on secondhand accounts and historical records. But seeing them in action was something else entirely. Daniel found him there one evening, after another successful raid. "You look troubled," Daniel said. Cirith turned to face him. "Not troubled, confused. I am trying to understand something about your species. What is that? The prisoners we have freed, most of them have no military value. They cannot fight. They cannot provide useful intelligence. Some of them are so broken that they may never recover. Yet your people risk their lives to save them. Your ships take damage. Your soldiers die, and you keep coming." Daniel was quiet for a moment. He looked out at the stars, at the distant lights of the fleet.
Oh.
"Do you know what makes a civilization strong?" he finally asked. "Resources," Cirith said. "Technology. Military power. Strategic position. Daniel shook his head. Those things matter, but they are not the foundation. The foundation is trust. The belief that your society will not abandon you. That if you fall, someone will come to pick you up. That is what makes people willing to fight, to sacrifice, to build something greater than themselves. He turned to face Sirith. Every person we rescue is a message. To the Vorn, it says that attacking our people has consequences. To the rest of the galaxy, it says that humanity protects its own. And to every human being, anywhere in the universe, it says that they are not alone. That no matter how far they go, no matter how lost they become, we will come for them. Aerith considered this. But the cost is so high. Yes, Daniel agreed. It is, and we pay it anyway. Because some things are worth more than ships and soldiers. Some things are worth more than survival. The fleet pushed deeper into Vorn territory. The resistance grew fiercer. Human ships were damaged. Human soldiers died. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Not until every prisoner was free. Clara waited in her cell, counting the days, listening to the distant rumble of explosions. That grew closer with each passing week. They were coming. Her people were. Coming, the nebula stretched across the viewport like a purple bruise against the black skin of space. Somewhere inside that swirling mass of gas and dust was the Black Citadel, in the heart of the Vorn Syndicate, the fortress that had never fallen. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of her flagship and studied it with cold determination. The fleet had been fighting for 6 weeks. They had lost 37 ships and over 2,000 soldiers. They had freed 412 prisoners from a dozen different facilities. Now they faced their final challenge. Intelligence gathered from captured Vorn. Officers had provided a rough map of the Citadel's defenses. 3 rings of weapons platforms surrounded the station, each one capable of destroying a cruiser with a single shot. A fleet of over 50 warships patrolled the approaches. A minefield extended for thousands of kilometers in every direction, and the station itself was armored with materials that could withstand sustained bombardment for days. It was a death trap. Everyone knew it. But no one suggested turning back. Captain Daniel Price presented his battle plan to the command staff in the Resolute's war room. His voice was calm, steady, the voice of a man who had accepted what was coming. We split into 3 groups, he explained. Alpha Fleet, under Admiral Cole, engages the enemy warships directly. Your job is to draw their attention outward, make them think this is a standard frontal assault. Beta Fleet navigates the minefield using data we recovered from captured ships. You will punch through the outer defensive ring and create an opening. Gamma Fleet, my command, goes through that opening and hits the station directly. Admiral Cole nodded slowly. The assault on the station itself? How do you plan to breach it? We do not breach it. We cut our way in. Boarding teams will land on the outer hull and burn through the armor with plasma cutters. Once inside, we fight our way to the prison complex, free the prisoners, and evacuate before the Vorn can regroup. And if you fail, Daniel met her eyes. Then Beta Fleet continues the assault, while Gamma Fleet buys them time. We do not leave until the job is done. The room was silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. Gamma Fleet was not expected to survive. Admiral Cole stood and walked to the viewport. She looked out at the nebula for a long moment. I have given orders that I would rather not give, she said quietly. I have sent men and women to die for causes I was not sure were just. But this is different. This is right. I know it in my bones. She turned to face the assembled officers. We did not come this far to fail. We did not sacrifice so much to stop at the edge of victory. Whatever happens today, the galaxy will know that humanity does not abandon its own. That is worth dying for. The attack began at dawn by ship time. Alpha Fleet emerged from hyperspace in a thundering wave of metal and fire. Missiles streaked toward the Vorn warships before they could raise shields. Fighters swarmed the weapons platforms, drawing fire away from the larger vessels. Admiral Cole directed the battle from her flagship. her voice calm and clear over the communication channels. The Vorn responded with brutal efficiency. Their ships were larger, better armed, crewed by pirates who had spent their lives fighting. They knew how to kill, and they did it well. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Escape pods tumbled through the chaos, some rescued, some lost forever, but the humans kept coming. Beta Fleet hit the minefield at full speed. Ships died in the first minutes, torn apart by explosives that had been placed with cruel precision. But the survivors pushed through, using the data from captured Vorn systems to navigate the deadly maze. They lost 12 ships before they reached the other side. The survivors opened fire on the weapons platforms. Clearing a path for Gamma Fleet, Daniel gave the order to advance. The Resolute led the charge, its shields absorbing hit after hit as it raced toward the Black Citadel. Escort ships fell around it, sacrificing themselves to protect the carrier and its precious cargo of Marines. Daniel felt each loss like a knife in his chest, but he did not waver. He could not afford to waver. Not now. They reached the station's outer hull and began landing operations. Assault shuttles slammed into the armored surface, their magnetic clamps biting deep. Marines poured out, plasma cutters already glowing, burning through the metal that stood between them and their objective. The fighting inside the Citadel was brutal. The corridors were narrow, perfect for ambushes. Vorn soldiers waited around every corner, fighting with the desperation of creatures who knew they were losing everything. The Marines pushed forward anyway, step by bloody step, leaving their dead behind. Cirith was with them. He had insisted on coming, despite every objection. He wore a borrowed suit of human armor that did not quite fit his body. He carried no weapon, but he had something more valuable than a gun. He had knowledge. They reached the prison complex after 6 hours of continuous combat. The doors were sealed, protected by a biometric lock that required Vorn DNA to open. The Marines had no way through. Their explosives were not strong enough. Their cutters were too slow. Cirith stepped forward. "Let me try." The Marine commander, a scarred woman named Captain Sandra Wells, looked at him with exhaustion in her eyes. "You know how to bypass Vorn security systems?" "No," Cirith admitted. "But I've spent my life studying alien technology. The principles are the same, even when the details differ. Give me time." "We do not have time." "Then I will work fast." Cirith knelt before the lock and began studying its components. Behind him, the Marines formed a defensive line, their weapons pointed down the corridor they had come through. The Vorn would be sending reinforcements. It was only a matter of minutes. The lock was complex, designed by engineers who wanted to make it impossible to crack. But impossible was a word that Cirith had never accepted. He traced the circuits, identified the power sources, found the weak points. His fingers moved with a precision born from decades of careful study. The first Vorn reinforcements arrived. Gunfire erupted in the corridor. A Marine fell, then another. Captain Wells shouted orders, directing fire, holding the line with nothing but willpower and ammunition. Cirith blocked out the chaos. He focused on the lock on the puzzle before him. He found the bypass, rerouted the power, triggered the release. The door opened. Inside, they found over 300 prisoners. Humans, Cathari, and members of a dozen other species. All of them taken by the Syndicate over years of raiding. All of them waiting for a rescue that most had stopped believing would ever come. And among them, standing at the back of the cell, was Clara Dawson. She was thinner than Cirith remembered. Her eyes were hollow, shadowed by months of captivity. But when she saw him, when she recognized the Cathari who had saved her life so long ago, she smiled. "You came," she said. "I promised I would find a way," Cirith replied. "I am sorry it took so long." Clara walked forward on unsteady legs. She looked at the Marines, at the open door, at the corridor beyond. "Are we really getting out of here?" Captain Wells nodded. "We are getting everyone out. Move now. We do not have much time." Evacuation began. Prisoners streamed through the corridors, guided by Marines who formed a protective ring around them. They moved as fast as they could, stepping over the bodies of fallen Vorn. Ignoring the distant sounds of battle, Daniel was waiting at the extraction point, coordinating the shuttle launches. When he saw Clara, he felt something release in his chest. All the planning, all the sacrifice, all the lives lost, it had been worth it. They had found her. They were bringing her home. "Get to the shuttle," he told her. "We are leaving." Clara hesitated. She looked back at the prisoners still streaming through the corridor, at the Marines still fighting to hold the line. "What about them?" "Everyone goes. No one gets left behind. I promise." She believed him. She had to believe him. After everything that had happened, she had to believe that her people meant what they said. The last shuttle launched as the Citadel's internal defenses finally overwhelmed Marine rearguard. Daniel watched the station shrink on his view screen, watched the fires burning through its corridors, watched the Vorn fleet scatter in disarray. They had done it. They had actually done it. The Black Citadel had fallen, and every prisoner was free. The journey home took 3 weeks. The fleet traveled slowly, careful not to strain the damaged ships or exhaust the crews who had given everything in the assault on the Black Citadel. Medical teams worked around the clock, treating wounded soldiers and traumatized prisoners. Counselors spoke with those who needed to talk, sat in silence with those who did not. Clara spent most of the journey alone. She had a small cabin on the Resolute, just a bed and a desk and a viewport that looked out at the stars. She watched the universe drift past and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. 6 months ago, she had been a cargo handler on a freighter. Nobody special. Just another human trying to make a living in a galaxy that did not care about her existence. She had never done anything remarkable, never expected to do anything remarkable. She was ordinary in every way that mattered. Then the Vorn had attacked, and everything changed. She thought about the Ketheri who had saved her life. She thought about her decision to surrender, to offer herself in exchange for their freedom. It had not felt like courage at the time. It had felt like necessity, like the only thing she could do. But it had started something. Her small act of kindness had rippled outward, touching lives she would never know, changing the course of history in ways she could not imagine. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, all of them mobilized because she had refused to let strangers die in her place. It was too much to comprehend. So she stopped trying to comprehend it. She just watched the stars and waited for home. Cirith found her there one evening, standing at the viewport with her arms wrapped around herself. He had learned to move quietly over the years, but she heard him coming anyway. Humans had better hearing than most species gave them credit for. "I wanted to thank you," he said. Clara turned to look at him. "Thank me? For what? For saving my crew? For starting all of this? Without you, none of this would have happened." Clara shook her head. "I did not start anything. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Cirith said gently. "That is not true. Most beings would have stayed silent. Most beings would have hoped someone else would act. You chose differently. And because of that choice, hundreds of people are going home to their families. Hundreds of people who would have died in captivity are alive today." Clara did not know how to respond. The weight of it pressed down on her, heavy and strange. She had never asked to be a hero. She still did not feel like one. "What happens now?" she asked. "Your people will celebrate. They will call you a symbol, an inspiration. They will want you to speak, to lead, to represent everything they believe about themselves. And if I do not want that," Cirith considered the question, "then you find something else, something that matters to you. The galaxy is full of opportunities for those willing to look." The fleet arrived at Earth 3 days later. The reception was beyond anything Clara had imagined. Ships from every human colony had gathered to welcome the fleet home. They formed a corridor of honor through which the battered warships passed, their running lights blinking in salute. Messages of gratitude poured in from across the solar system. From governments and citizens and families who had given up hope years ago, Luna's station was crowded with people waiting to greet the returning prisoners. Families who had lost loved ones years ago now rushed forward to embrace them. Children who had never known their parents finally met them face to face. Tears flowed freely. Mixing with laughter and disbelief, Clara watched from the observation deck. She was not ready to face the crowds yet. She needed time. Time to process, to heal, to figure out who she was now that everything had changed. Admiral Cole found her there. Standing apart from the celebration, "You're supposed to be down there," the Admiral said. "I know. I will go. I just needed a moment." Admiral Cole nodded. She stood beside Clara, watching the reunion unfold below. "You know, when this all started, I did not think we could do it. The Vorn were too strong, too well established. I thought we would fail, and that failure would set humanity back decades. What changed your mind? You did. That recording, the way you offered yourself for those aliens without hesitation. It reminded me why we fight. Not for territory or resources or political advantage. We fight because it is the right thing to do. Because someone, somewhere, needs help. And if we are not willing to provide it, what is the point of all this?" She gestured at the fleet, at the station, at the planet hanging in the viewport behind them. "All of this means nothing if we are not willing to use it to help others. You reminded us of that. You reminded us of who we are." Clara felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them away. "I am not special. I am just a cargo handler from a colony world," maybe Admiral Cole said. "But special is not about where you come from or what title you hold. Special is about what you do when it matters. And when it mattered, you did the right thing. That makes you more special than most people will ever be." The ceremony took place the next day. Clara stood before a crowd of thousands, broadcast 2 billion more across human space. She had been given a speech to read, carefully crafted by diplomats and politicians to maximize its impact. She threw it away. "I am not a hero," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "I am not special. I am just a person who made a choice. The Cathari saved my life when they did not have to. When I had the chance to repay that kindness, I took it. That is all." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "But you came for me. You crossed the galaxy, fought battles that should have been unwinnable, sacrificed more than I can comprehend. Not for territory or power or wealth, for people, for strangers you had never met. For the simple belief that no one should be left behind." Clara looked out at the crowd, at the faces watching her with hope and pride. That is what makes us human. Not our technology, not our strength, not our place in the galaxy. Our willingness to fight for each other. Our refusal to accept that some lives are worth more than others. Our belief that every person matters, no matter how far away they are, no matter how impossible the odds. She straightened her shoulders. The Vorn thought they could break us by taking our people. They were wrong. They made us stronger. They reminded us of what we are capable of when we stand together. And now the galaxy knows it too. The applause was deafening. In the weeks that followed, the political landscape of the galaxy shifted. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers now looked at them with new respect. The Vorn Syndicate, broken and scattered, never recovered its former power. Trade agreements were signed. Alliances were formed. Doors that had been closed for centuries slowly began to open. Sirith returned to Cathari space with a message for his people. He told them about the humans he had come to know, about their courage and their kindness and their stubborn refusal to abandon anyone. The Cathari listened. They were cautious by nature, slow to trust. But they were also wise enough to recognize something valuable when they saw it. 6 months later, the first Cathari diplomatic delegation arrived at Earth. It was the beginning of a friendship that would last for generations. Clara found her own path. She did not become a politician or a military officer. She did not accept the fame that was offered to her. Instead, she took command of a humanitarian vessel, a ship designed to provide aid to those in need. Regardless of species or origin, she named it the New Dawn. The galaxy was vast, full of beings who needed help and had no one to turn to. Clara could not save them all, but she could try. She could reach out, one person at a time, one ship at a time, one act of kindness at a time. That was the lesson she had learned. That was the truth she carried with her, as her ship entered hyperspace, heading toward the unknown. She had saved one crew. Her people had come back for everyone, and now it was her turn to pay it forward. The stars stretched out before her, endless and bright. Somewhere out there, someone was waiting to be found. Someone was hoping for rescue. Someone was praying that the universe was not as cold and empty as it seemed. Clara smiled and gave the order to jump. She would find them, no matter how long it took, no matter how far she had to go, because that was what humans did. They came back for everyone.